Hey beautiful people, have you ever found yourself in a moment, maybe with your partner, a friend, or even a family member, and suddenly, for what seems like no reason, you feel this intense surge of emotion? Maybe it's a flash of anger, a wave of sadness, or a deep sense of hurt that feels completely out of proportion to what just happened. Like, your partner leaves a dish in the sink, and suddenly it's not just about the dish, it's about feeling disrespected, unseen, or taken for granted. You know that feeling, right? That moment where you think, why am I reacting so strongly to this? Today, we're diving deep into those moments because those strong, often confusing reactions, they're not random. They're called triggers, and understanding them is the first step towards massive healing and more peaceful relationships. Let's be honest, we've all been told we're overreacting at some point. But what if that overreaction isn't really an overreaction at all? A trigger isn't about the present moment. It's a raw nerve, a memory, or an unhealed wound from your past being poked by something in your current environment. Imagine a paper cut. When you accidentally get water on it, it stings, right? The water isn't the problem. The paper cut is the vulnerability. Similarly, your partner's tone of voice might trigger a past experience of feeling dismissed by a parent, or a friend forgetting your birthday might bring up old feelings of abandonment. The present event is just the water. The real sting is coming from an older wound that needs your attention. This insight alone can shift your perspective from shame to curiosity. To truly grasp triggers, let's use the iceberg analogy. What you see above the water, the anger, the tears, the slamming door, that's just 10% of what's going on. It's the surface-level reaction. But beneath the surface, that's where the real story lies. That's 90% of the iceberg, made up of unresolved childhood experiences, past hurts, fears of abandonment, feelings of inadequacy, or unmet needs from previous relationships. When a trigger hits, it's not just about the dish in the sink. It's about the decades-old fear of not being valued that resurfaces. Understanding this hidden depth allows us to approach our reactions, and those of our loved ones, with much more compassion, seeing beyond the visible problem to the underlying pain that needs healing. So, how do you start to identify your unique trigger blueprint? It begins with noticing. The next time you feel that disproportionate emotional surge, pause. What did you just hear, see, or experience? What physical sensations are you feeling in your body? A tightening in your chest, a knot in your stomach, a flush of heat. These are your body's alarm bells. Then, ask yourself, when have I felt this way before? Often, a pattern will emerge. Maybe comments about your competence always sting because you grew up feeling underestimated. Perhaps feeling ignored brings up old abandonment wounds. Start journaling about these moments. What was the trigger? What was the feeling? What past memory or fear does it connect to? This isn't about blaming your past. It's about understanding it so you can consciously respond instead of react. Once you've started to understand your triggers, the next powerful step is to communicate them, especially with your partner. This isn't about making them responsible for your healing, but about inviting them into your world with more understanding. Instead of saying, "You always make me feel ignored when you're on your phone," which sounds accusatory, try using I statements. For example, when you spend a long time on your phone during our conversations, I notice I start to feel a familiar pang of not being important, and that's a really old wound for me. Could we try to set aside phone-free time when we're together? This approach focuses on your experience and needs, not on their perceived failing. It opens a door for connection and empathy, rather than shutting it down with blame. Healing isn't a solo journey. It involves how we interact with others. What happens when your partner is triggered? It can be challenging not to get defensive or triggered yourself, especially if their reaction feels directed at you. But remember the iceberg. Instead of arguing about the surface-level issue, try to see the underlying pain. Practice holding space. This means listening without interruption, validating their feelings. I hear you're feeling really hurt right now. And offering comfort rather than solutions or counter-arguments. Ask, what do you need from me right now? Or, how can I support you? This isn't about agreeing with the reaction, but acknowledging the feeling. It takes immense empathy, but it builds trust and creates a safe haven for healing within your relationship. Understanding and communicating triggers is powerful, but true healing is a continuous journey. This involves consistent self-compassion. When you notice a trigger, instead of judging yourself, offer kindness. It makes sense that I'm feeling this way, given my past. Engage in practices that help you regulate your nervous system. Deep breathing, meditation, spending time in nature, or creative expression. If your triggers are deeply rooted or overwhelming, don't hesitate to seek professional support from a therapist. They can provide tools and guidance to process past trauma and repattern your emotional responses. Healing isn't about never getting triggered again. It's about shortening the duration, lessening the intensity, and choosing how you respond from a place of conscious awareness rather than automatic reaction. You are capable of profound change. Recognizing your triggers and understanding their roots is not a weakness. It's a profound act of strength and self-love. It transforms you from a passenger in your emotional reactions to the mindful driver of your own healing journey. By moving from "why am I like this?" to "what needs my attention here?" you unlock the door to deeper self-understanding, more authentic connections, and a life lived with greater peace. Start with awareness, practice compassion for yourself and others, and remember, every step you take towards understanding your triggers is a step towards a more whole and healed you. You've got this. Let's heal together.